motion to open the meeting.
Second the motion.
All in favor? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most important thing.
And that was it.
I believe so.
Brendan, you ready? Okay, step up. We usually have something there for, it's gone.
He's got it. Here it comes.
It's not gone. All set.
Basically, I just want to come here to give a update on the permitting process for the town dock and ramp area. I was at the Board of Selectmen's meeting quite a few months ago. Since then, all the permits have been approved by the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. It's the same as what I had shown you initially. I met with the Capital Planning Committee, and Tracy was there, and Chuck was there, and we talked with them. And one of the things they asked us to just come before the board and give you an update. Tracy and I talked and thought it'd be good to come here and give an update. So the plans are in place, and the three major elements that are involved in the plan is redoing the ramp itself. The ramp is developing quite large potholes in it, so redoing the ramp. The pier, there's a fixed pier that is on pilings that, again, is really old and aging and needs to be redone, so replacing that. And then we have a small building shed down there now. When we rent a trailer, so it's because the shed doesn't really have enough room for all the radios and everything else. And so we're going to put a small shed-type building up on pilings down there, too. So that's really those are the three major elements involved in it. And that's it. So I guess that's, any questions is what
So that's the status of, now, have you got the things designed and stuff like that?
Right, there's the plans, I think I had shown you, I come to a meeting, oh gosh,
But
almost a year
the
ago.
design work's been done.
The design work's
Okay.
done, and it's all signed off by the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. And now we're at the point where we need to go out and secure bids on that and find out what that's gonna cost us to build that out.
Okay, now, has this gone through capital planning?
No, that was the stage we were at. We met
Okay.
with them initially, and they asked me to sort of come to you and just gonna give you an update and go from there.
A blue prism.
Blue Prism?
Blue prism?
Prius.
Chris, sorry.
Prism, Prius. T. All right, so the next step will be capital planning, I assume?
Next step
Yeah,
would be capital planning for
Because the
consideration for
amount
town
and-
meeting.
And the length, it's a permanent facility, so it kicks that
Do you
in.
need our approval to go to capital planning
No.
from here? No, I didn't think so, but.
No.
Do you have to pay
Okay.
for this, Brendan? Out of the revolving fund?
Well, that's the question, I guess, with the capital planning, will the money come out of purely the waterways fund, or some of it come out of whatever the capital planning fund? I guess that's a question I have.
Oh, They
We'll
don't
have to
really
look
have
and
a
see
fund,
what the
yeah,
bids come in at.
yeah,
Um,
so, yeah, because that's what they'll probably, typically, that's what they want is, now, have you got enough plans to come up with a rough idea what it's gonna cost yet, or?
Yes, we should be able to go out to
Okay, good. That's what they're gonna
businesses
want,
and
yeah, that's what they're
you know,
gonna
start
want.
securing bids and see
Yeah.
what it's gonna cost.
What's
Okay.
the guesstimate?
I'm not in the marine
Okay.
engine, I mean, it'd really be a wild guess.
all
I
right.
would, I don't know.
Especially the launch and ramp itself, you gotta dig out the old one
Yeah,
and,
it's
yeah.
resurface.
So-
I mean, have you got enough money is there a lot in the revolving?
I think it'll exceed what we have. The last few years, what I've been doing is running under budget. In other words, even though I'm approved to spend X amount of money, I've been trying to hold underneath that, because in a revolving fund, which is what the waterways fund is based on,
Right.
whatever money you don't spend stays in the fund next year. So that's the purpose why we've been doing that, is knowing that this work was coming, trying to save some money aside, so when this point came, we'd have at least some of that money put aside. So that's what I've been doing for the last probably 5 years now.
All right.
Now, if you didn't have enough money to actually accomplish all the tasks that you wanted to, and somehow there wasn't enough money in the budget, what would you do? Would you do some one year and then some the next and some?
Yeah, that was my, when Tracy and I have talked about that, which was to sort of break this out into phases and talk about not doing it all at once, essentially doing just what you just said, which is, okay, what's the most important thing? Let's look at that first, and let's, put that on the agenda first and get that taken care of.
All right.
Well, yeah, I got a question, because we were at the MRBA meeting the other day, and they were talking about how bad the mouths of the Ipswich and the Essex and the river is, and is it Park River shoaling in too? Or-
Over the last 2 years, we've definitely noticed that the shoaling in the Parker River has definitely increased. I put a warning out on this on the website. I call it a local notice to mariners. And I also, anybody on the renewal slips, when we send out the waterway stickers that people have to purchase and put on their vessels, I put a little paragraph in there about how shallow the water is in the Parker River. At low tide, there's several spots in the marked channel, which is what we call best marked channel, which is we crisscross the river back and forth until we find the deepest water.
Yeah,
So there's several spots in the marked channel that are less than 2 feet of water at low tide.
Good night.
So that's not
Getting
a lot
bad,
of water.
yep.
So it's certainly silted up over the last 2 years. It seems to be getting worse.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay, you're welcome.
That's
Thank you.
exciting. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Martha, proposed zoning amendments for fall special town meeting.
What's the matter?
A little bit. I think you all have in your packet the planning board's recommendations for two proposed zoning amendments for the fall town meeting. One is a medical marijuana moratorium, which the board recommends be put before the town for a vote to allow time to consider a bylaw, which would be consistent with the last year's vote. Thank you. The vote of the Commonwealth last November to legalize the medical use of marijuana. And the proposal was to have this moratorium in place through June 30th of next year. We've been looking at all the Attorney General's decisions to date so far. Wakefield and I believe it was Burlington both tried to pass bans, which the Attorney General has said is not consistent with state law. The moratorium language has been approved by them in a number of cases. Wakefield is actually appealing the Attorney General's decision, but we don't know where that's going to go. So I think for now we need to work with what we've got. And I think some communities will probably be passing bylaws in the fall, so we'll have the advantage of seeing the decisions on those as well.
I saw an article in the paper about the Georgetown, where they're gonna do the growth thing, and they were talking in there that this deadline for this year, there was a deadline for applying for permits to the state, and it's coming up in the middle of the fall sometime. Did you pick that out of there, John?
Permits, this is the one who wanted to grow it, the same woman though, I think, with.
Yeah, it was the same ones here.
That's what I gathered from it, but I don't know if that's the fact, that's what the article said.
I know, I hadn't heard that, but I was just wondering that if that,
I don't know.
because I don't know, you
I know
can't
that
tell.
had been the plan, that the applications, there's a two-phase process.
Right.
So first phase is to determine eligibility, and then if you're eligible, then phase 2 would be where you actually apply for the permit. And I know they were planning on scheduling it for the fall, but I haven't heard the date.
Yeah, but the language in that article in the paper was kind of different, so, all right.
So that was the first, and then the second was just to create an error that was actually in the solar bylaw that was passed at town meeting. When we made the changes to have the selectmen be the special permit granting authority for the ones that require a special permit, a change was inadvertently also made to the ones for site plan review, which was intended to be the planning board. So I just wanted to clarify that one. So the selectmen remain the special permit granting authority. and planning board would do site plan review for the smaller ones, 2 acres and less. And there are a couple of other typos in there which we'd like to correct.
Martha, will you clarify for me where it says the planning board is the body responsible for site plan review for ground-mounted solar PV installations occupying less than a quarter acre, but less than 2 acres of, what does that mean?
That means, so if there's
Over a quarter acre, but less than 2 acres?
less than 2 acres, right.
What happens when they're 15 acres?
That's you guys. Anything 2 acres and over is a special permit, and that would be you guys. It's Board of Selectmen.
But I mean, if the site plan review is required for over 15 acres, isn't
No.
site plan, what happens there?
Well, it's a special permit, right?
Yeah.
For anything,
So site plan review is not within,
yeah, right, it was just
Special
intended for these little tiny projects, small projects, like in, back behind some business or something.
To the planning board for our thoughts, et cetera.
Yeah.
That would be,
But
that's
it's
kind of,
just a special permit to grant.
Right.
all right.
that was your point back then too,
Yeah.
is if they'll work together on it.
Huh.
All right, so the language actually includes, if a special permit comes in, referring it to various boards for input.
Okay.
So the planning board would like to, in order to meet the whole public hearing process, the planning board would like to request that this be referred back to the board for public hearing.
Motion?
I move that we refer it back to the planning board.
Second.
Okay, and discussion on it. What this does, correct me if I'm wrong, is, we have the public hearings, and like we had them before, and then after we go through the public hearings, then we vote on what we want at town meeting, correct?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, thank you.
And that's for both?
What?
Both amendments, right?
No, it's
Both-
for-
yeah.
My motion was for both.
Yeah, all right, okay.
If I may, I've got 2 other things.
And so is my second.
The planning board tomorrow night is going to be receiving a site plan review application for a project on Newburyport Turnpike at 6769 Newburyport Turnpike. It's also in the Water Supply Protection District. And so it's going to require, the project is going to require a public hearing both for site plan review and for a special permit for the Water Supply Protection District, which, the
Where's
special.
the well?
Pardon me?
Where's the well?
It's the one on the, well, there.
Newbury Elementary, isn't it?
It's yeah, Newbury Elementary. I think it might also be within the radius of the one on the Bashaw property.
Yeah,
But
Really?
it's in, it's
Okay,
in
that
a
one's, that one I know of, but the Newbury Elementary one, I'm still lost on.
it's on a
that one.
map.
It's
It's a well that's
Yeah.
on a map.
Okay.
It's designated on the map right now, and what triggers it is the increase in impervious surface for this project. And the Board of Selectmen are the special permit granting authority for projects in the Water
Okay.
Supply Protection District. So the board was wondering whether the Board of Selectmen would be open to holding a joint public hearing on this so that they don't have to go through two
Yeah.
notification
Fine.
processes.
Yeah.
The point is that if they have one, they only have to do all the notifications one
Right.
time instead of 2.
And
so-
they don't have to get drawn into
Right.
2 different meetings. I agree with that.
Yeah. We did that for the bus company, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we
yeah,
did.
For 90 Hanover Street, right.
All right.
And I posted a notice for a joint hearing.
So just out of curiosity, what are they proposing to do with the site?
They're a child enrichment program, and they're actually planning to continue to use the property as basically a mixed-use property. So the owners are going to live in the house and run their programs out of the building, which right now is being as offices. And there's a rental apartment in that as well, and they're going to continue that as a rental apartment on the 2nd floor. And they're planning to expand both the house eventually, and right now they're going to expand the building that will house their programs. So there'll be an increase in parking and additional driveway down behind. There's some stormwater management and a new septic system.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, the motion is?
To hold a joint meeting?
Attend
Have a joint meeting.
Okay, all right, and
And-
we'll let them schedule it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they'll
Right.
be coming in tomorrow night. My guess is it will be September 18th, but the board
Okay.
hasn't voted yet. And one other thing, I just wanted to update the selectmen on the new FEMA maps. We've received preliminary draft maps for a further map amendment above and beyond the one that was passed at town meeting last year, or adopted at town meeting last year. And this one really looks at the effects of coastal surge and goes farther inland. So the area of the A zone, which is the still water flooding, has increased quite a bit, and the base flood elevation is also going from 8 to 13. So there's going to be a significant impact for people who are both on Plum Island and also inland. So we want to start getting the word out. Doug and I went to a meeting on July 29th. I think it's been published, the notice has been published in the paper. So the 90-day appeal period has started, and if everything goes according to schedule, the letter of final determination will be issued next January, and the maps would have to be adopted by sometime next July. So
Wow.
we'll have another bylaw change to make, which will be minor, much less than what was last time, as well as adopting the new maps.
The other thing is, it's important for people to realize, Plum Island immediately comes to mind, but it's all over the town.
Right.
And an example, I was in the building inspector's office, and a woman came in and she had all her plans ready to go with the current regulations, and the new ones came in that day, and she had her choice. She could have permitted the ones on the current ones, but later on, she's gonna be problems with insurance and all that sort of stuff. So she modified her things, and she was gonna have to raise her ground level floor 4 feet.
Wow.
Okay, is that much of a difference? And her family's owned this place for a while, and she shrugged her shoulders and said, that's probably a good elevation, so. But it's all the way up along the river and the marshes, and a lot of people that had nothing to do with it before should really pay attention. It's gonna affect their insurance, and if they've got a building project, it behooves them to try and make it compliant with the new ones, so.
So, I mean, that went from 8 to 13?
8 to 13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we knew 8 was wrong for a long time.
Yeah, but you did.
No, I mean, it was
But I
never
mean, 8 to
updated from,
13.
it was never updated from the original maps. The original methodology
Well, I
back
don't
in the
think your house
seventies or whatever was known to be, it's now known to have been flawed. 13 feet's probably pretty accurate, you know, talking with
But
Doug.
the implications really
Yeah.
are quite far in
Yeah,
there,
they are.
Right.
Yeah.
so.
You take, I think someone was saying there's an area on the Plum Island Turnpike that's around elevation 12, and the water goes over that, so it's a good number.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martha.
Thanks, Martha.
Those maps available to planning board?
Yeah. I think was it Dyke that did an article in your paper about it, okay? And we can't emphasize enough that people be aware of it, you know? Board of Health, Steve Fram has an update on mosquitoes.
We still have mosquitoes. There has been one pool of West Nile virus found in town. There's only been one confirmed case so far of Tripoli, and that's out in Norfolk County. And the article in the paper about the airdrop of the BTI, that's the way they always did it, but because it's coming out of a helicopter, they have to notify everybody. So there's nothing out of the usual. I did ask Jack Card, the director of Northeast Mosquito Control, to come tonight and fill you in on details that are much more complex than what I can fill you in on. But I have to tell you that the local board, and I'm sure the selectmen, it's an incredible group of guys to work with. I don't think they sleep, but they do one heck of a job. So that said, I'll ask Jack to come up and fill you in on what's going on.
Thank you for taking the time, Jack. It's an important thing this time of year.
Good evening. I just want to say that right now we don't have, some people say we don't have a lot of mosquitoes out there flying around. but we have a lot of virus. So at this point in time, you have to start thinking about this virus out there. There's only a few mosquitoes. These few mosquitoes may be older mosquitoes and have had time to pick up the virus. So even though there's not a lot of mosquitoes out there, you should be using your repellent because those 5 mosquitoes that you might see tonight, one of them may have the virus or 5 of them may have the virus. So what happens is people get complacent. They don't, if they're not getting bit, they forget to use their personal protection. At this time of the year, the virus as Steve said, is throughout the state. It's pretty much throughout our district. We're expecting Friday to find some more virus. I don't know exactly where. One of the things that people ask us all the time is why don't we know what's going to happen and when? A lot of things are happening. The mosquitoes are adapting to different conditions. Different types of mosquitoes are picking up the virus. We're picking up mosquitoes that are carrying both viruses, both Triple E and West Nile.
Wow.
The Triple E cycle used to be a 10-year cycle. You'd pick up the virus for 3 or 4 years, and then it would kind of go dormant for about 10. Lately, it's been every year. West Nile, as you know, is relatively new to us, and we weren't sure when it first came whether it was going to survive our climate, our winters. It has. It continues to expand. It's throughout the state. It's throughout the Northeast region. It's throughout the country. And it's just getting bigger and bigger. So it makes our job difficult because we don't actually know where it's coming from. We know it's a cycle between the mosquitoes and the birds. Sometimes it's a little bit easier trying to track the mosquitoes because of where they come from and how far they fly. Well, we can't track the birds. So it's a little bit sometimes like that game where the woodchucks or the fish or whatever come up and you got to whack them down, the moles or whatever. We think we got a handle on it, and pretty soon it pops up behind us somewhere. So we just have to be ready and react as fast as possible. I've tried to talk to all the boards of health that when we get our results, generally it's on a Friday, what we do is we collect on Mondays and Wednesdays. In our district, we collect twice a week. The rest of the state collects once a week. We've tried to do this. It's expensive, but it gives us a better idea as to what types of mosquitoes and the numbers out there. If you trap just one night a week, it might be a rainy night, might be a cool night, a windy night. It might be a night when you don't collect a lot of mosquitoes. By doing it twice a week, we get a better handle and a better collection. We send our mosquitoes in on Wednesday night. It takes 24 hours for them to turn that around, and we will hear any results Friday afternoon. We call that lady that calls us the Grim Reaper because she calls on Friday and everybody's gone. But I've tried to get all the boards of health to understand that when we find out that we have virus, as you know, in public health, you want to react as fast as possible before it mushrooms out. So we want to react as fast as possible when we find positive mosquitoes or when we start to see an increase in a vector species that we're worried about. And Newbury is very proactive, very preemptive. I have no problems with the way you handle the situation. I wish everyone did the same. We have towns in this county that even though they have virus, they won't do any spraying. So, and a lot of people say, well, why don't you do other things besides the spraying for the adult mosquitoes? There are 2 basic species of mosquitoes that we can't larvicide for. There's nothing we can do to control that population of mosquitoes until they become an adult, and then we can spray for them. Those 2 mosquitoes, the mosquito that likes the red maple swamps, cedar swamps, they breed underneath in the crypts underneath the trees. So there's nothing I can do for a larvicide to control them in the development. They are the prime vector that bites the birds and gets the Triple E cycle going. They don't generally bite humans, but they will. But they're a major player, a major indicator. We try and collect them because they're the ones that are going to have the virus. So we know that virus is circulating. There's another mosquito. We have a lot of cattails a lot of floating cattail
Yeah,
swamp things around the edges of ponds. This mosquito attaches to the roots of those plants. It breathes through those plants. It doesn't come to the surface only to emerge as an adult. So there's nothing we can do to larvicide that mosquito. So the only way we can control it is to spray for it when it becomes an adult. And that's a major player, it's a major vector of any virus that we have, West Nile or Triple E. So there's 2 species that we have nothing we can do to control except for spray. And those are 2 major species in the virus cycle. There are many other species. The Culex species, which we treat all the catch basins in every town, they don't like swamps. They don't like natural areas. They like man-made areas. Catch basins in the streets, gutters on your house. Anything that holds water in your yard or in your neighborhood for about a week. Bottle cap. They'll breed in the bottle cap. So that's the mosquito that basically we collect and we look at for carrying the West Nile virus. They not only pick it up from the birds, but they'll also transmit it to humans when they bite as well. In that mix, there are many other mosquitoes, many different other habitats, and they will go out, bite a bird, and come back and bite a human. So that's the life we live. It's not just that one mosquito. There's many different mosquitoes, many different habitats within our district. Some towns, like down towards the South Shore, down towards Boston, they don't have a lot of wetlands, a lot of natural wetlands like you have up here. Oxford and Topsfield have some larger swamps. Hamilton and Wenham. So sometimes it's different species of mosquitoes that we're looking at throughout our district. We do historical trapping, which is a trap site in every community. We do it year after year, so we get a cycle of data from that, history, if you will. We also put out extra traps throughout the district. We may be looking for a particular species, we may be looking for numbers, we may be looking for virus, and we're constantly doing as much as we can to find the virus and to react to it as fast as possible before the human intervention, so to speak. We're not going to control all the mosquitoes. We're just trying to reduce the risk of people getting the virus. That's the best we can hope for. But we need everyone's help as well to look at these things around your property and make sure that you're not breeding a lot of mosquitoes in your property. I can tell you when you look at where a mosquito breeds and how many mosquitoes and stuff, just the salt marsh we have in this district, we have 22,000 acres of salt marsh. About a third of that we would consider a mosquito breeding marsh where mosquitoes would actually breed. Size of a paper plate, I've put an emergence trap, what we call emergence trap, over a mosquito larva in the water on the salt marsh. Over 3,000 mosquitoes the size of a paper plate. So if we got 7,000 acres or so of breeding marsh in this country, okay? These mosquitoes will bite you during the day. They'll fly up to 20 miles, so no matter where you live in this district or this county, you're going to get whacked by them because they'll fly inland and then they'll come right back.
Jack, is that Solicican?
Solicitans.
That's got the long range. Now, but they're not a vector for West Nile or Triple E yet, right?
They just isolated
No kidding.
West Nile last week.
So, what is the flight radius for the real culprits? Well, now Solicica might be too, but what is the other one? What's the flight range of some of the other mosquitoes?
Generally a half a mile.
So it isn't that broad range, so,
That's why sometimes when we get a hit or a pool, positive pool, we'll look at maybe a half-mile radius of that area and propose a targeted spray of that area.
yeah.
We had a Triple E positive mosquito in Merrimack. We did a targeted spray of the northern section of Merrimack, and we also included part of the northwest section of Amesbury because it's right around Lake Attitash. That's where we had a human case last year. And so, one, we had some virus close. Two, we had some historical issues going on there.
Yep.
So we proposed to do that, and we just did that last night.
So that's why it's so effective if you find these areas, because they're not long flyers. If you can get to the root of the problem, it's gonna work best. Yeah.
But you
other-
said the problem is with the birds. They bite the bird and there you go, so.
Now, here's another situation. Newbury, for instance. West Nile generally is a drought year mosquito because they like man-made things. They're not really a wetland swamp mosquito. So on a dry year, you're going to have a little bit of rain here and there in the gutter. you're gonna be watering your yard, washing the car, it's gonna wash down the catch basins in the street. Just a little bit of rain is gonna concentrate in those areas where it's not gonna do diddly for your garden. Those mosquitoes that breed in that situation are gonna have a great year. Generally, West Nile, you think of southeastern Mass, you think of close to Boston, around Boston, the inner city, because of all the man-made things that are gonna hold the water, not the country. So you know, we're not thinking, say, Newbury for West Nile virus. First hit we got in Newbury was on the salt marsh. Second hit the following week was in Rowley on the salt marsh. Then we get a hit in Lynn, right in the center of Lynn. Then we get other hits on the salt marsh. So we don't know if it's the birds, the freshwater birds, or the birds roosting in the trees in the salt marsh, picking it up there. We don't know. Mosquitoes will fly up, some of them, to bite the birds. So at night when they're roosting, they're right there. During the day, they're on the ground. Other mosquitoes that have a free reign at them. So we don't know, like you say, the birds. We don't know if it's birds that predominantly will be in the salt marsh or if it's freshwater birds. We don't know at this point. Still new. So, one of the reasons, a lot of people ask us, well, why do you, when we go out to do a spray event or a targeted application, why do we spray early in the evening? In Massachusetts, we can't spray until sunset. One, that's the state regulation. Two, it's to minimize any non-target effects on bees that are flying, because the materials that we have available to us today can be toxic to bees. So we do it after sunset when the bees are out of the way. Second, the materials we use nowadays are very quick to work, and then they dissipate and go away. There's no residual, basically, to these materials. So we have to apply them when the mosquitoes are active. And so that time of night when you're sitting out there and you're finishing dinner or having a drink and all of a sudden you start whacking mosquitoes, that's when we need to spray, because that's when they're coming out. Certain species of mosquitoes may come out for an hour. They may only come out for 2 hours in the night. They don't, most species don't carry all the way through the evening hours. So for us to spray really late at night, we're not really doing the best job we can. So we apologize for having to interfere with the jog or the dog walk or out having a cigarette or cooking or whatever, but we have to go when we have to go. Basically, it's not really our call; it's Mother Nature's. You know.
I got a question, because we get a lot of calls and stuff like that from people that are concerned. They heard that there was, we found some in town. I assume that once you get a report that you've caught something, then you go right after them, probably before we'd even have a chance to hear about it.
Well, the protocol is DPH will notify you.
Okay,
They notify you directly, or they notify you through the HAN system,
okay.
and then they notify us. So sometimes I get a call from the Boston Globe before I even get a call, because somebody leaked it or what, I don't know. So when I get that call, I start listing everything. I start looking at where we got that sample, because they send us a pool number, and so I know where that is collected, what day. I try and put a plan together for each town, and then I notify the Board of Health, whoever that person is for that day. Some people are on vacation, I need the go-to
Yep.
person. And then we'll put that together. I'm usually talking to people on their vacation on the weekend, they're putting notices out so that we can get going as fast as possible. Some towns require a written notice to the town. It may be 4 or 5 days before we can get spraying. Some towns it's do it and we'll take care of it later. My feeling is I like people to know, but I want them to know early in the season that this is what we're going to do when we find the virus, because the longer we wait, the harder it is for us, because the mosquitoes and the virus have spread. So we want to get on it as fast as possible. So the faster we can get the okay to go and get everything worked out and everybody notified, the better. So we've been working over the years with the boards of health to try and get that out, on a cable or however they notify the residents that this is what's coming and this is what we need to do and be ready, so that when you get the call, you know what's going on.
That's good. Anyone
Thanks.
got any
No.
questions?
Thanks, Jack.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience got any questions for Jack? No? All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack.
Update? For mosquitoes? For what? Oh, all right.
We'll tell you that we get notified Monday, and if there's anything going on in town that needs to be known by the population, believe me, we'll get it out to you either both in the media and probably with a reverse 911. So anyhow, and we're in good hands because Jack and his guys do a great job.
Right. Thanks, Steve.
Steve, thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, Kathleen, why don't you come in here under board committee?
Kathleen Pearson. As you know, over the past year, I've been working on a project for the town in correlation with my graduate degree at Northeastern University in Civil Engineering, and I'm happy to say that it was completed a couple weeks ago. The project was the impact of a public water supply on economic development for the town of Newbury. Tracy has been my advisor over the past year, and next month I'd like to give a small presentation on the results to you of that project. Do you have any questions? No? Okay?
Okay, it's all done, though?
Yes.
Good, congratulations.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, we have no citizens' concerns, scheduled, no public hearings. Town administrators report.
Okay, I had a couple of things. I'd like to ask you, the board, to set the special town meeting date for October 22nd. Make that
Okay.
official.
Motion. You have to make a motion so we can set this.
I'll make a motion.
Second the motion.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Done. Good.
I also wanted to notify you that we have received FEMA grant reimbursements in the amount of $37,763.95. Much of the credit for applying for this should go to the Emergency Management Director, Chief Riley, who spent quite a bit of time putting it all together. Also wanted to give you a brief update on the land sales. Most of the closings have taken place with the exception of one. Right now, we have realized about $638,949, and we have one final closing for $550,000, which has yet to happen. So, totaling 1.1 million, a little over $1.1 million, which is great. We'll have that money to appropriate for further capital projects.
I think it's important that people realize that has to go to capital projects too, so.
Wow.
And while we're talking about mosquitoes, just to kind of segue over to Greenheads, the Beachcomber had their fundraiser and presented us with a check for $2,986.50 to go towards our continued participation in the Greenhead program, which is great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg.
The 2012 audit report has been completed, and I have copies available for all of you. The management letter, I'd ask you to take some time and review that. It's, I think it's indicative of us showing continued progress towards improving our financial situation, so I'm quite excited about that as well. I provided you with copies of the Media Committee's proposed policy document. Didn't know if you had a chance to review that or if you want to vote to approve it.
I didn't, did you look at it?
No.
All right. Next time?
If you want to take it under advisement,
Yeah.
that's fine. I didn't know if you had any changes or if you'd like to see any amendments to it, let me know. And that's it for right now.
All right.
Okay,
All good news.
oh, I know, I had a conversation with a couple people, and do you know the status of what we're gonna do for road work this year?
I don't, but I asked, I'll ask the DPW to provide me
Okay.
with a 5-year update.
Yeah, and
So
where
we can-
we stand and what's.
we could see what's on-
What's gonna happen this year.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Now, does that go to capital planning?
Yeah.
On chapter 90, I thought we said
Yeah.
it didn't.
I
Well,
know.
the board kind of decided you would like it to go through the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
Probably do.
okay.
That was
It
the final vote.
doesn't have to, but we're gonna.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to, no.
All right, thanks, Trace.
All right, new business. Historical Commission appointments. We have a letter here someplace. Okay. This is from Channing Howard. And the members of the Historic Commission recommend the following new members for appointment. Molly Shamus to fill Marcia Pierce's position, and Lon Hackmeister to fill Barbara Rogers' position. Thank you, Channing.
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
all right, does, I'm just gonna fill in, I don't know if you, does anyone know these people or anything?
I know Lon, but I don't know,
Okay.
Molly.
Molly lives on Hanover Street, I believe. She grew up there. She lived there all her life. Her mother was one of our teachers at Newbury Elementary, so she's lifelong, been around a long time. And Lon has been involved a great deal down in the Lower Green issues and stuff. Good people. So anyway, just a comment.
Are there any openings after this?
What?
Are there any openings after these two appointments? Because
I
I
don't
got a
think so.
request today for...
I don't think so.
Okay,
And if
All
there
right.
is, they should contact Channing.
that's what I told them.
Yep, good. All right. All in favor of these?
Aye.
Okay, good. Proposed sign at the intersection of Old Pine Island Road and Seaview for consideration.
I'm sorry,
Pine Island. We had a request for some stop signs, and it's been referred to the chief for his recommendation, and I think they've been implemented at this point.
We had a resident complain with a safety complaint about, the need for stop signs at either end of Seaview Lane and Old Pine Island Road. The request was brought to myself, the highway superintendent, the town administrator. The signs were implemented prior to what we would normally do and have a public hearing and everything else. So you're now before you with the fix, as you might say. The bottom line is, it was a safety concern brought by a Seaview Lane resident, and that resident was more concerned with the west side, the initial entrance as you're coming up Pine Island Road. And his main concern were not so much the residents that live there, because all the residents know to stop, but there are a lot of people there that have landscapers and other service vehicles that don't, and they just fly right through. And they felt that, the complainant felt that that was an issue. I went down and took a look. The initial entrance, the sight lines aren't very good. Someone that doesn't know the area coming off Pine Island, Seaview Lane onto Old Pine Island Road could have a problem. The second entrance, the east side entrance, there aren't very many houses down there. The sight lines are pretty good. I have no issue with that remaining with no stop sign, but as far as the initial complaint from the resident, I tend to agree. That's a busier section. The sight lines aren't very good, and somebody that doesn't know the area could have an issue there.
Motion?
I'll make a motion that we follow the chief's recommendation and approve the one-stop sign.
Okay, second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? Kathleen, you live down there, what do you think?
I just want to see how this process works. I mean, I think that, I'm Jeff Valley, I live on
Could you cut in the microphone,
Go step to
please?
the microphone, please.
I was led to believe that it was traffic volume that was a concern. And so I did a little bit of research, and I'm concerned that the stop sign might actually create more of a dangerous situation. Where you put a stop sign in an area where it's not warranted due to the traffic volume per the MUTCD standards states that you should have 6,000 vehicles per day to warrant a stop sign. So if you put a stop sign up where it's not warranted, and we probably only have 50 vehicles a day down there, you actually create sort of a false sense of security for the cars on Old Pine Island are assuming that the cars on Seaview will be stopped, but because the sign isn't really warranted, people are just gonna roll through it. And if there was no sign at all, both parties would be cautious. So my biggest concern is that we might have a less safe situation now if traffic volume itself was the reason for the sign.
And I understand the traffic volume. There is no traffic volume issue down on that area. It's more sightlines. It's more of, and it's not the residents. The residents all know, and they're cautious. We don't respond to very many accidents down there.
That was gonna be my next question. How many accidents have we had on that intersection?
I haven't responded to one.
Okay.
Okay, the person who complained, the complainant, cited a fatal accident that took place there before I became chief. Maybe before I was even on the police department, so I don't remember it. What concerns me is once the safety issue was brought up by somebody that lives there, that drives it every day, it's something we have to look at. Now, traffic volume, I agree with you 100%. The residents, they know. It's more of the delivery men, the landscapers, the private people plowing driveways, that type of thing. People that don't know the area that are coming through there, the sight lines there aren't good. You're coming up an incline to a street where if you don't know the area, you don't really know it's there, and somebody rolling out could be an issue. So the second egress, the east side, the sight lines are good. There's not very many houses down there. I have no issue with it remaining the way it is, but if you're asking for a recommendation, I recommend that stop sign be there for a safety concern. That's it. Traffic volume, I agree with you 100%. That's
Because of sightline.
absolutely.
And the only thing is, once the stop sign goes up, people better not roll through it,
Well,
because it's a stop sign, and it'll be a
it's
violation.
a traffic controller, and it's gonna be put there according to mass highway regulations.
Especially if they roll through it and caused an accident. I mean, once it goes up, you're gonna have to kind of,
Right.
obey,
And the normal
obey the
process
stop
for this
sign.
before it comes to the Board of Selectmen is the request comes in and we sit down and have the public input beforehand. That wasn't done this time.
Yeah, I
for
was just gonna
reasons-
say, because we got one person that wants a sign up, now we're gonna put
Exactly.
it up. I
And-
mean, if you came with a majority of people from down there and said, hey, here's a list of people,
Exactly.
fine.
Yep.
But one person?
So that's the thing. I know Kathleen's talked to the neighborhood, so she can
Okay.
fill you in on the feel for the neighborhood. But the normal process would be for it to come forward, we schedule a public hearing for the residents to come down, the people that live there to come down and discuss it, and then I'd make a recommendation. Unfortunately, in this case, that wasn't done. They went right up immediately, and now we're dealing with the
Okay.
backlash.
I'd have to say Chief Riley and Tracy did a great job of trying to correct the situation. What happened in the neighborhood was one day stop signs went up. Nobody knew. They weren't put at the appropriate height required for stop signs. They were extremely low. Tracy and the chief addressed that immediately. The concern was that the highway department was going to come in and put signs up, and they actually told us they were going to spray lines across the street and write stop, which is extremely not appropriate for that neighborhood.
Okay.
That was corrected. The chief and Tracy addressed that immediately. Tim did not paint the lines. An email did go out prior to contacting Tracy. I contacted Tracy about it in regards to a couple of the neighbors to get feedback to find out what happened, because I was away on vacation. And there was about 26 of us that were going back and forth in emails, and nobody wanted them there. It ended up being one resident that got it up. Anyways, he's addressed the reason why it happened this way, and everybody understands it. One of the concerns that we did have, but as long as it goes forward in the future like it's supposed to, is in a 0.6 mile stretch of road, we have 14 traffic signs. They keep on appearing. It seems like if someone makes a request, they go up, and that's one of the things that were bothering people in the neighborhood. Signs were going up without anybody aware of it. But that's all. I just wanted to give you an update on why the neighbors were upset.
So, how do you feel about the stop sign?
I am not going to argue with the police chief. I don't have the background as far as that. I do know at the other end of the street where the sign was that there was only 4 driveways coming off that end of Pine Island, so that definitely wasn't valid. I think that personally, if I was to look at the safety of the street as someone that's lived there for the past decade, the concern should be of going up the hill to where the highway department is. You're going up the hill, most people drive, especially myself, drive in the middle of the street because you don't know if there's kids on both sides or people walking, and then the car comes down the hill, drives in the middle of the street, and there's usually an issue, and the fence is right against it. Plus, when you get up to the top of the street, there's not a defined property line between the highway department and the street. So sometimes the trucks are backing up. That's really the concern. It's really that's my opinion. It's not the stop sign, it's the highway department, but we're not here to talk about that. So, are we all set?
You know, one thing Kathleen brought up, and this is gonna get me into a world of problems, but we have quasi-country roads. You know, Hay Street, and we have a lot of people crossing, let's say, and what you just brought up about people riding in the middle of the street because they don't, you know, there's a lot of impact from both sides and things. And, you know, we have streets in Byfield and we have streets like Hay Street. And this is a plea for the fact that the roads have multi-use. They have runners, bicyclists, carriages, and babies, and mothers pushing the carriages. And my thing is, somewhere along the line, there's gotta be caution. Obviously, bicycles and pedestrians have the right of way, but a 3/4 ton truck seems to have the right of way. And what people just don't realize, and I'm on television and that's what my plea is, especially when the pillars on these trucks and cars now, with people stepping out in crosswalks and things, drivers don't see people anymore. I mean, it's real easy when people step out in downtown Newburyport because they got the right of way, and you're looking through that pillar would shield a car. Yeah, and a pedestrian is just hidden. So that's what my plea is, that you started to say, you know, the roads are for all people, but it's hard. You know, you gotta be careful.
Can I just clarify with the chief, the reason that there wasn't a public hearing was because we went out there and determined that the complaint was valid, not accurate?
No, I received a complaint from the neighbors that the signs had already been put up, and that was the first we were made aware of it.
What put the signs up?
The DPW.
So, I don't understand what happened there.
As far as the initial complaint, the DPW, the police chief, and I believe the town administrator were all CC'd a copy of the initial complaint. And DPW and police chief, and before we sat down and met, action was taken. And that's normally not the way, but, you know, I just believe the highway department's right there, a resident's complaining about it, and, you know,
So
Tim's a
the
great
highway
guy.
department just said, Lord, we're gonna take care of it, and you didn't have a chance to weigh in. But after the fact, you went back, and I don't wanna talk through you, but after the fact, you went back and determined this was a valid complaint. Is that accurate?
Could I just clarify? Whatever happened, I think the chief and Tracy rectified the way they should have to correct the situation, and I don't want this to become of what originally happened and how the signs went up.
I'm sorry, but it's important to know what happened. We need to know that, so.
But
Initially, we jumped the gun. As a town, we jumped the gun and put the signs up before they were supposed to be put up. And that's not strictly the highway department, that's my fault too, I was CC'd on that. But normally the process is, we get the complaint, we sit down with the town administrator, we schedule a public hearing so the neighbors can come down and give us their concerns, and then we make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. In that case, the signs already went up. Now that they're up, you know, you can't just take them down, so they're already up. We're doing it kind of backwards,
Sure.
but we're trying to rectify an issue, but I take full responsibility for them going up.
But
to
you're
the shore.
saying that when you went and looked at the situation, eventually, you agreed that the sign should be in one part anyway, in one section.
Certainly. The safety concern, and my attitude is, I'm not down there every day like the residents are, but somebody that doesn't know the area, that first intersection comes up on you very quickly, and if you're not familiar with the area and that cars could be coming out of that side road, that could be a potential hazard.
So are there signs in both areas, and now you're saying just one area needs them?
At this point, there are signs at both areas.
No, the other one was removed.
One was removed, okay.
Thank you.
And the sight lines of
Mike-
that second
Mike's
one.
been on vacation. He came back about an hour ago.
But the bottom line is, I don't want this to turn into, you know, the highway department did something wrong or anything. It was just the process you know, between myself and the highway superintendent, the communication was lost there.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something to ease the pain?
Well, I guess, what are our next steps? I mean, it seems to me that maybe we should go through the public hearing process and then decide whether we want to keep the sign or get rid of the
Yeah.
sign.
I think what Mike's concerns are now, if people are getting used to a stop sign there, I mean, that's got its issues too.
Go ahead, Mike.
Jen, I'm gonna try to ease the pain a little bit. We're coming in, being a former police officer in this town, the former chief of police in Rowley, and what poor Mike is going through. And the way it used to be done is the chief would get a complaint and we would go out and survey it. And we probably would ask for input from the acting district highway engineer from the state, and they would approve it. And once we got the approval as to what should be done, we would go and put up the sign. There were no, it wasn't the selectmen that did it. There was no hearings and everything else. But now all of a sudden, and it was my ignorance on the if you remember the biofuel center thing, when we had a complaint, and Joe asked me to take this on, and I said I would. I felt it was going to be easy. I met with Mike, I met with the fire chief, and the highway department. Well, all hell broke loose. I mean, it was terrible. We put the signs up where we felt they should go, and there was a lot of give and take. Then we had 2 hearings, and then it eventually went, after a lot of money was spent, to the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and they had a study. And what finally came out after all that money that was spent, signs stayed in the same place. We had them in the right place. But like I said, we're in changing times now. So what happened was, I think between the police chief and the highway department, they felt that they were doing the right thing to do that. They didn't want to cause a problem, and then there was opposition to it. So now the new way is we're going to be going through our administrator with, right. So, I hope that,
The first motion still stands. You want to withdraw it?
no, I don't want to withdraw it.
No. Do you think we should just vote on it now, or should we have a public hearing?
Your bylaw gives the Board of Selectmen the authority to make the decision, and this would be, I mean, do you want to do an advertised public hearing? That's not necessary under, yep.
After meeting with Tracy and the chief, I did send an email out to not all the neighbors, but a number of them, about 26 neighbors, to get feedback, and told them that they should have comments to the town today, or show up to have comments, just so you know.
All right, so they were aware that we're talking about tonight. Okay, so we'll just vote on it then.
I feel it's that.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking of a formal advertise, it's always good to avoid sort of what we ran into in Byfield, is get a little public input before we do something, even if we think we know best.
Yeah, we tried to notify the
They've
neighborhood
all
that
been
it was.
notified, good. All right, so we'll vote on,
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
okay, all in favor of the chief's recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Good, done. Thank you, Michael.
Sorry that got so drawn out.
Okay, we've got a petition here from several people complaining about a dog that's barking, and I don't know, how many people, we the undersigned, I don't know, there's 8 or 10 people have requested we have a hearing on a dog up on, South Pond Street, is it? Yeah. And so we have to set a public hearing on that, and I would like a motion to set the public hearing for the 10th.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, done. All right, so we'll notify the people that signed the petition and the dog owner that we're gonna have a hearing on the 10th. Where is it? Kevin, Can you give us an update on the Veterans District, Veteran Service District?
Well, what has transpired, the veteran agent over in Amesbury in February announced that she was moving on. And the mayor of Amesbury and the mayor of Newburyport got together and decided to see if they could regionalize, save money, and also offer better services to the veterans. As you people know, I was already serving Newbury, I've already been serving Merrimack, I've been doing that for 5 years. As a result of attempting to pull in Salisbury and Amesbury and Newburyport into this 5-city-town district, we discovered that the state law prevented 2 cities, adjoining cities, from becoming a district. On learning that, we also learned that we would be opposed by a group of veteran agents who have grouped together. They call themselves the Veterans Association, but they're really acting like a union. And this is a group that basically says we want the same number of veteran agents we have now or more. So they oppose basic regionalization. They're the ones who wrote the law about the 2 cities. We felt the law was unfair. We looked at the 2-city requirement. We said, my God, Framingham's a town. It's 3 times the size of what we would be if we formed 2 cities together. So where's the logic to this law? There is none. So we thought we would go with a home rule petition. Home rule petitions, we have since found out, require a tremendous amount of legal work and time and lobbying and all of the other things that go with them. It is felt now that the easiest way to get this done is by using an intermunicipal agreement, which is basically what is before you tonight. And the intermunicipal agreement would allow the 5 towns to operate basically with the same wherewithal that would operate under a state-sanctioned district, but it would not be a state-sanctioned district. If I might be, I'm obviously biased in favor of it. I know you have other offers on the table, one of which is to go independent. I'd like to speak to that would be extremely difficult for you to do, to kind of start de novo and create your own veteran agent. It may have been easy to do 5 or 6 years ago when this was a paper-based job. This is totally electronic now. It requires an office, electronic files, a lot of safekeeping, a lot of things that would be expensive. But I'll talk to that in more detail at any time if you wish me to. I also know you have a proposal from another district, or you went to them. I'm not sure whether they proposed to you or you went to them. In that case, you're looking at a situation where you would be one of 8 towns, and you would be operating under the guidelines, state guidelines in a district. I would suggest to you you'd be better off going with the intermunicipal agreement because you would have parity with 4 other towns or cities. You'd be one of 5, and absolutely nothing would change from what you've had for the last 5 years, and I foresee having for the next 5 years anyway. So that's a quick summary of it.
Do you have any comments on it, Tracy?
No, I think I provided you with the documents
Yep.
that we had drafted. When you have an opportunity to review those and the other information, you can certainly take a vote.
Okay, so I think our homework is to review these for the next meeting, and then we can do something, okay? Make sense?
Yep.
All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for next meeting. We'll get a chance to review the 2 proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Kevin. And you've done, I'll tell you, people don't realize all that you've done when you were the Newbridge guy, you know? You did a great job.
There's a lot of work there.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. Yeah. Okay. We have firefighters' mandatory retirement update.
Okay. Lisa Mead is here tonight, filling in for Debbie as she's on vacation. She's gonna help guide us through.
Hi, Liz.
I guess, up there.
Yeah, but I think Caleb likes that because it's on the television, Lisa, on the thing.
We had an opportunity to meet with the chief and the deputy chief and members of 2 of our insurance providers. The 3rd insurance provider was unable to attend, but I think overall the meeting was good, or at least it was from my perspective. Oh, yeah. We understood that we have some deficiencies in some of our coverage, which we can address. And I'm trying to think what else came out of it. We also learned that the VFIS policy, which covers injured on duty, does not have an age limit. So they would cover the individuals beyond the age of 65. And I came away from the meeting with a very clear understanding of what the relationship is between the town and the private fire companies, which I was not aware of in the past. Understanding now that we do have a Newbury Fire Department headed by Chief Pearson, and what we do currently is we lease or rent, or whatever the correct terminology may be, both the facilities and the equipment housed in those facilities, and that's what we get for our flat rate fee. We understand that we need a contract document or a lease agreement to be put in place. We don't have that now, and the special legislation that we passed calls for that. And that if the board did want to move forward with allowing for firefighters over the age of 65 to continue, that we would want to consider special legislation and annual physicals and things of that nature. And I think that was the majority. I don't know if is there anything else, Michael?
In other words, I feel that we should, the firefighters in this age group right now are very, very valuable to the town and the companies. And members of the Board of Fire Engineers, I attended their meeting last night, the chief's here, deputy chief's here. And they would like to pursue probably a home rule petition to go to town meeting and then go to the legislature, similar to what's been done in Chelmsford, similar to what's going to be done in Merrimack, Georgetown. All the towns have this problem. And I personally, and if the board wants to go along with it, there were different, we also identified 3 different types of fire departments at that meeting, if you remember. There was the full-time fire departments like the cities have in the Route 128 belt, and then you have your call departments, or the combination call departments. They have some full-time members that would always have to retire at 65. I mean, not the full-time people. The call members, even though reference was made to the heart-lung law and as to how they're bringing them in under this umbrella, because they don't contribute to the retirement system. There's no money contributing to them or whatever. And I'd love to see us initiate legislation that would make any community that under 15,000 people that has call or volunteer firemen, that they be exempt from this law, solely because the state retirement system does not apply. There's no, and this brought to light a lot of footholds too, because as far as if a firefighter got hurt, and it's even under the Heartline law, if they're working other jobs, to my knowledge, there's never been a call firefighter retired under the Heartline law. I was, others have told us, in the Call Volunteer Firemen's Association, they sent the word out that says, if anybody knows of anybody, please tell us. And the argument would be, if they would have to have a hearing and determine that more than 50% of the injury happened because he was fighting a fire as opposed to working his regular job, which could have had the same hazards as whatever. So it gets complicated. So I'm getting a little far along, but I think the bottom line is we'd like to see something pass that would allow our senior firefighters, who are the most knowledgeable, to be able to stay to age 70 as long as they were physically fit, mentally fit, and as long as they didn't, I don't think anybody is arguing with you on the point of having them go into brilliant buildings. As long as they're not allowed into the building until the fire is suppressed, and they could be doing an investigation, helping the chief. There are other things on the fire ground that they could do. But the big thing is having them going into a burning building and no overhauling, and this seems to be the function that's being eliminated in this legislation. In other words, there's nobody 65 and over being required to go into a, they don't want them to be able to do that, so.
I mean, one thing before Lisa starts, I think Michael was pretty spot on when he spoke. But I mean, Billy and Doug and Mike, myself, and Tracy, and representatives from both insurance companies were there, and it was a very productive meeting. I mean, the meeting, I think, was spot on. It found some things that we needed to do, and it illuminated some things which I think, put Tracy a little bit more at ease, because the liability of the town was something that, wasn't clear to us. And so, I mean, when you get open meetings such as that, which that meeting was, if we have to proceed like Michael's talking about to do other things, as long as they're done in that spirit of cooperation, it's a whole different venue. And that was a very open meeting. I have to compliment Jackie. She did a tremendous job from Page Insurance, and the MEMA representative was very sharp. So, I mean, I thought we're lucky we had the meeting. It clarified some things, and I thought it was great.
Lisa?
Well, I would say to follow up on what the selectman said, I think that absent special legislation, you have to follow the law. And I think that Maya actually came back and said that what they cover you, but they want you to follow the law. And so the law, when you take a combination of it and how it's been interpreted, requires retirement for uniformed firefighters, police officers, and other public safety personnel at 65. That's what it requires. And it's been interpreted by the personnel administrator that there's valid reasons to do that. So if you're not going to do that, my recommendation is that you absolutely have special legislation, because not only are you going to be fighting about maybe the heart and lung law, but there's liability, because if you make a decision today without special legislation that uniformed firefighters that arrive at a scene, for example, and you've decided that there's only a couple of them, and the ones that are over 65 can't go into the building to save somebody, and somebody dies, then you're going to fight about that liability later on in another sense, because you haven't done what the state has said is the prudent thing to do. And so that's okay, but you need to have something backing you up to do that. So my recommendation to the board is, given the law that exists, you either follow the law or you draft special legislation to get you exempt from the law. That doesn't mean, of course, that Maya or anybody else is going to go along with it. Now, Tracy has spoken to your 111F carrier, which seems to be okay until the age of 70. But the only thing Maya says is follow the law. So if the new law is 70, well, maybe they're okay with that. But I would require physicals as well as then a retirement at the age of 70 for the exemption, if that's what you're going to do.
The only problem with that, Lisa, and here we go, is at the meeting, that's not what I came away with. I came away with the representative from MEMA saying it posed a liability because you could end up with higher limits. They could go, the monies could be higher, but the idea that follow the law, I don't think that got mentioned once at our meeting, did it, Tracy?
I have that in writing.
Right,
That came in writing before the meeting.
No. Right now, well, this came on, that was June 12th, was that before the meeting?
That was before the meeting, and that information was way before we got together. And now, if it turns out that that's how MEMA feels, I'm a little surprised, and we gotta go at this again. Because what I came away with, at least at the meeting that we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, that they weren't age discriminatory either. And you can't have it both ways. If you're not age discriminatory, then what does that mean?
No, I think what they said is they don't write our policy.
Right.
That's what they kept telling us. They don't write our policy currently.
Meaning that our liability is with Page Insurance, and they don't have a problem with that.
The VFIS provides is it 111F?
Yeah.
The injured on duty. policy.
And Page is gonna have a rider.
Page has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, no, but Page has the liability rider for the town
Page has the liability rider for the companies.
and the town. Cause
No.
we asked them to put $2 or $3 million limits on that.
But we don't currently have that. That is not in existence yet. That was one of the deficiencies that we found.
Right, but that's something we're working on,
Right,
aren't we?
right, right.
I'm merely suggesting to you that if you have an incident that occurs regarding somebody, involving somebody over 65, or some property damage occurs, or somebody gets injured, you're opening yourself up to liability, absent a change in the law. It's just, I think it's pretty clear about that. I think that the opinions that have been written, the decisions that have been written, the interpretations of the statute are pretty clear that there are reasons that certain public safety personnel over the age of 65 are required to retire. And so once you say you can keep working as a uniformed personnel and be a fire engineer or a fire warden, but you can't go into a burning building, you've made decisions beyond that which the statute allows. And you've taken on a certain liability, and that may be okay, that you may not be covered for, absent a piece of special legislation.
But that's the way the Board of Fire Engineers voted to go, in that direction?
Yeah, the Board of Fire Engineers voted to make 70 the cutoff date for, firefighters. They'll concede the part with them, if they want that to be a limitation, that they don't, because even now, you don't have 65-year-olds going in the buildings with or without a law. And, but they do other things, they run the pumps, they do all the other things, they're there for training, they're there for, our biggest person, if the pump breaks down, he can fix it, he's there, and he's probably the best pump operator we have. And he's healthy, he's got a Class A, driver's license, he has all the stuff, certifications that he needs. And this is just us, and this is, now, they allowed the, Senator Tow's office called me, and they gave me a copy of the law where the Chelmsford Fire Chief is allowed to, go to, the year 2015, and they had special legislation. The fire unions will oppose it, they oppose that too, but it went through, it passed.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just to be clear, is there an objection to classifying folks who are 65 and older as something other than fire engineers or fire wardens or firefighters?
Okay, you're gonna ask
So,
the chief, he's right behind you.
for example, let me just give a background on that.
Yeah.
So, for example, you can be a police chief, okay, retired police chief, over 65, take a job as an interim police manager, can't be in uniform, you don't have the powers of arrest, and you can't carry a weapon, but you can manage the department. You could go to a scene to follow up on something. You could do all of the things that you would do. You can't carry a weapon, you don't have power of arrest, you don't carry, wear uniform. Okay, so it's kind of what you're describing without certain risk and liability. So is there, I guess that's a question I have in drafting the legislation, is there an objection to calling those individuals something else?
No, there wasn't, and we did go to the personnel board and try to clarify that from the last time at the meeting. But
They haven't got back to us.
that we didn't understand.
I think the sticking point, Chief, was requiring them to be uniformed officers. If there would be an allowance that we could kind of take that out and give them a job description like you had described for some of the administrative support and,
You could make them, allow them to wear their gear, but make them wear a vest, just to differentiate them from the others. That was one of the suggestions that the call volunteer people
Yeah,
suggested.
I don't know where you would split the hair, but at some point, I mean, I guess I'm asking the question because if that's the case, if you're willing to call them something else, limit their duties, and not necessarily have them wear the uniform, then maybe you don't need the special legislation. Okay, maybe you can do it anyway.
So in other words, Lisa, I mean, when you come at us, you know, with a pretty high, you know, you're pretty high power, you know, town council, and you're coming at us with that, but now you're coming at us with some of the solutions.
Right.
And this is where we really should listen. So,
So, because that's the differential. The differential is a uniformed officer who has to respond at everything. And so if you, without changing their position, require them to go, but say, stop, don't go in the burning building, but they're dressed like they're supposed to, well, then you've caused yourself liability. But if you have a clear differential
I mean, they have
in
a
their
green
job
vest on instead of a fire.
in their job description, responsibilities, uniform, so to speak, you've changed things.
Billy, would it be possible, in addition to a job description, I assume the firefighters have a qualification matrix or training matrix? Okay, so if you took these people and they were lacking something in the qual matrix, then they're not qualified to go into the burning building. Okay, so we could find that makes sense, Doug? If we could find something that's in the qual matrix, these people aren't qualified in that anymore, and then that takes away the liability of they showed up but they didn't go. They didn't meet the qualification to go in.
Right, I think that it sounds like, not that they didn't meet the qualification to go in, because you don't want to send unqualified people to a fire, of course.
No, but I mean, if you've got someone that doesn't
But they go and they
satisfy
have a
that.
specific, right, they have a specific
Yeah. Like a
job,
separate-
like a trainee, so to speak, on the other end.
That's right.
On the
Yeah.
other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
You've got a trainee, you got a person who's first day on the field, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to send him into the building. You're going to have him back
Yeah.
turning hoses and things like that. So, I
They-
think
They
that-
couldn't argue, this guy didn't come in, and he was there, but of course he didn't come in, he's not qualified to do it, to go
Right.
into a burning building.
right,
Right,
and you knew ahead of time that was the case.
Yes, that's right.
You knew ahead of time. You didn't tell the public that these people who have this uniform are going to rescue them.
No.
You didn't tell them that.
No.
You said, no, those are clearly support personnel or whatever.
That was the term that Bill used before, was support personnel.
Now, Bill,
We'd agree to that, that's fine.
Billy, are the guys gonna agree to not being able to wear the uniform?
Because that, if you remember, Ginny proposed that, but when we went to the personnel
I
board,
forgot
that
about-
wasn't clear, yeah.
You know, you can go to a fire, a guy that's been for 30 years, he can tell a younger guy or somebody else, don't do that, or you can get hurt, and that's what we're really looking for. The experience of the guy that's been to, because we don't have a lot of fires nowadays, and, you know, a guy that's been for years and years and years can really add a lot to it, so a younger guy doesn't get hurt.
Kind of like
He
a
can just say
mentoring,
no, you know.
like a mentoring kind of.
That's right.
So
But we-
what's the next step here, so it doesn't
We
get
we have
lost?
two things, do we want to go this way, or go for home rule petition?
Gonna leave that to Billy,
Mike, what do you think?
or Mike and Billy.
I think, I personally would do both.
Okay.
Yep, I was just gonna suggest that.
Yep, I would do both.
One other question too, when you make the appointments of those, positions, do you appoint them as call firefighters, or do you appoint them?
I don't
as a
know,
separate
I'll have
job
to look,
description?
yeah, you may change their job title. I mean, you're gonna have to change their title, they wouldn't be straight call firefighters, right? We changed their title along with the job description.
What you wanna call them?
Right.
Okay. Support firefighter.
Yeah, they're still firefighters, but
Yeah, that
need
makes sense.
support.
So we can do that, why don't we I work with Tracy, the chief, and come up with something, and then do the home rule petition and this, but if we do this first,
Then
then the home rule petition's easy, it falls out.
Right, yeah. And you basically have started down a road of being protected.
Right.
I think it's cool.
I like that.
So that's the
I like
direction
it.
we're headed.
Good.
I like
And
it.
Mike's got a lot of the background on other home rule petitions.
Right.
Okay, good.
I
All right.
think that was easier than the stop sign, right?
It wasn't
Thank you,
until
Bill.
this point.
You haven't heard anything yet, where do we get to,
Yeah,
Yeah, hello.
we gotta have a hearing. We gotta have a hearing.
okay, did everyone, Kathy, these are the same meetings that you sent us? Okay, everyone read them?
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
motion to approve.
Second.
Motion?
Second.
Motion second. Questions, deletions, additions? All in
You see
favor?
it in the stop sign.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
All right. One-day liquor licenses, protection number 2 for functions on August 24th, September 21st, October 19th, and October 26th, all from 6 to 10 p.m. Everything all set, Kathy? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have a request for live entertainment at the Beachcomber on Saturday, 21st, September 21st, from 7 to 10. Okay, all right. I'm confused because we got two things here.
Well, we, right now, currently have music on Sundays.
Right.
With football season coming up, we want to change that to have it on Saturday nights.
Okay.
But there's a September 21st event that we would like for permission to have music on
Okay.
for that Saturday, and then see if we can change the Sundays to Saturday nights.
All right, so after September 21st, or do you want to change?
It'll probably be in October, we'll be changing over to Saturday nights.
Okay, so we'll say after the September 21st, you're going to change over from Sunday to Saturday night.
Correct.
Okay. So the motion would be to change his live entertainment license from Sunday to Saturday.
Correct.
Okay, and you want it on Saturday, that's 21st too,
Correct. Yes.
starting September 21st?
Yep.
Yes, I believe, yes.
Okay.
So Greg's live entertainment license was all along only for Sunday nights?
It's only
Yeah.
been for Sundays, yeah, all summer.
Now, is this gonna be
Coming-
forever, or is this just gonna be till spring?
We're gonna play it by ear, see how it goes. We'd like to give it a try, and if it's, we haven't had any issues in their, year and a half doing it now. So we're just trying to give it a shot, and if it's, if it doesn't pan out, we'll stop it, or if it goes on, it'll go on.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if Greg's coming in all the time asking for his live entertainment anyway, why do we have to specify either Saturday or Sunday? I mean, why wouldn't a weekend venue?
This is what we did at the beginning of the year. We're
Yeah.
following through. Okay, we can look at it more closely in the spring, okay? All right. The motion was made to change it starting September 21st from Sundays to Saturday.
That's okay.
Okay, second?
Second.
Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
got
thank
it,
you
Greg.
again for the Greenhead Trap Fund.
Thanks.
See you, Greg.
All right. Okay, we have the chief would like to appoint Stephen Jenkins as full-time police sergeant. Chief, speak for him.
Absolutely. Our third sergeant position's been vacant for a couple of years now. We went through a process with a sergeant position being made that involved a test, a strenuous oral board, and Stephen Jenkins was chosen. Afterwards, he's been with the department for several years. Excellent candidate, very bright. And I think that's all I have.
All right, motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
You got it,
And
Chief.
thanks, Stephen, for gets all kinds of people like him, and you get a lot of
Positive feedback.
positive feedback on him.
He's excellent.
Yep.
He's excellent. He's a good leader. Thank you.
Thanks for tonight, Chief.
All right, request for Protection Fire Company number 2 to hold a boot drive at the intersection of Ross Lane and High Road for an MDA fundraiser on Saturday, August 31st and September 1st from 9 to 5.
Motion?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good, okay. We have a disclosure form for the Shellfish Constable. Charlie Colby, he's here. And this came, I don't know, Tracy can explain
Sure.
the process we did, because she was in the middle of it.
Yep, back in, I think early May, there was concern voiced by a resident that there may be a potential conflict of interest because the clam warden is also a commercial clammer. So at that point, I had a conversation, I contacted the Ethics Commission, and spoke with David Wilson to explain the scenario. We know it exists in many other communities as well, so we wanted to understand how we could rectify the situation. And the problem that exists is that all actions are matters in which Mr. Colby has a financial interest. In particular, the two issues that were identified is he's in charge of closing the flats, saying when they'll be open and closed, and he's also, the other issue is he's in charge of, and correct me with the details, but determining whether or not the size of the clams are appropriate and imposing fines if people are taking clams that are too small. Again, it's a matter that he is deemed to have a financial interest in because he's a commercial clammer himself. So basically, what Mr. Wilson advised us is that he can be exempted under a section of the general laws, Chapter 268A, Section 19B, by filing the appropriate exemption disclosure forms and making the disclosure to the Board of Selectmen. So, identifying to you that there is a potential conflict, and then you voting to accept it and allowing the chairman to sign off on the paperwork that you've been made aware of this conflict. And that's basically all we have to do.
Okay.
So-
Need a
And that's
vote
the
from the
ruling
board?
that came back from the Ethics Commission. Yeah.
Okay, so what we've got is two disclosure forms here. And one of them, the first one is, as part of my duties, I'm required to fine commercial clammers for harvesting undersized clams. And then the second disclosure is, as part of my duties, I'm required to close the clam flats from time to time. And
Bed bug.
Charlie, you could tell us when you close them? It's with rain, right, essentially?
Yeah, I don't decide when it goes. The decision's made by the state.
But you're the arm that goes out and puts up the sign, yeah, okay.
I have to be contacted with the Newbury Police when they check the rain gauge
Yep.
every morning at 5.
Yep.
And then I contact the Ipswich warden.
Okay.
And we average it out, who, the Ipswich warden is contacted by this state, their police. And we average the rain, and if it's over half inch, then it's closed.
Yep, okay, good. All
I
right,
don't make the decisions, I just.
yeah.
The messenger.
All right, so basically, the motion would be, someone make a motion for, that we sign the two disclosure forms.
I make a motion, we sign the two disclosures.
Second motion.
Any other questions? I think it's straightforward here, and
Yep.
this will clear up something that has been painful, but it's really pretty simple. So anyway, all right, so have you got the original forms? Okay, so we'll sign them with Kathy. You're all set, and thank you, Chuck.
All right. We just got to vote on it, right?
All in
Oh,
favor?
yeah, that's right. Well, I thanked him ahead of time, yeah. Thank you, motion was, go ahead.
Yeah, and seconded.
And
so-
seconded.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we just,
then we sign the two disclosure forms.
Yep, okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good.
There we
Beautiful.
go.
You caught me, thank you.
thanks, Charlie. Putting up with that.
All right, we have here a,
Just Joe's signature on that, yes.
the,
You want to talk to me?
Am I supposed to ask now?
If you want to.
Yeah, all right. I asked Tracy, I asked the chief, me and Tracy, if I could be scheduled for 20 hours a week, so I could be eligible for the health program in town. And Tracy said the only way to do that is to ask you at the meeting, so that's what I'm doing.
Basically, the way it's budgeted now, it's a position that is budgeted for 12 hours, up to 12 hours a week. And during the last 2 years, I think we've seen a consistent schedule of approximately 5 hours per week, Chief. So that would be something that if the board wanted to increase the hours, it would have to be done at the October Fall Town meeting.
okay,
So
in
it's
order
something
to
you
fund
wanna-
it.
Yeah, in order to fund it, because we don't have any funding
Okay.
available.
Um,
So you'd have to.
Any
consider.
thoughts?
So I'm a little puzzled by the hours, maybe I just didn't quite follow right. So we're currently budgeted for 12, but it takes more than 12. Just trying to
Currently,
think of how we present this to the voters, right? That if we're going from 12 to 20, what's the justification?
we currently have a budget for 12 hours a week. How many years did you review? Three, for the last 3 years, Charlie has consistently worked about has documented about 5 hours.
Put in 5 hours. Charge the
Charlie's
town
put in
5
for
hours
about
a week.
5
I
hours a
work at
week.
20.
Now, let me clarify this. Is this to make him to qualify for insurance or to pay for insurance?
Eligible, I believe.
Okay, quick question. Aren't you, as an elected fish commissioner, eligible to get insurance through the town?
Correct.
He's not, or he is?
Elected officials are eligible to participate in the health insurance program, but pay 100% of the premiums
Right,
currently.
yeah.
So what's the difference with 20 hours?
Then the town pays 75% of it.
So from a budgetary point of view, it's both the extra hours and the cost of the town share.
Correct.
Ah, okay. Light dawns on Marblehead. Got it.
So if you want
Thank
to
you.
take that under advisement for consideration as we move into the budget
Yeah.
season, that's something we can.
Yeah, as we start to put together.
Now, where is Charlie's money budgeted out of?
The police salaries and wages account.
Out of the police department's money?
So what we
Okay.
have to do is add to that. Transfer, it's not a transfer, it's an add to that.
Yeah, you'd have to increase the annual appropriation.
Right.
And so the argument is that in reality, you're really putting in more like 20 than like 12. I mean, everybody wants cheap health insurance today, so that's not gonna fly real well at town meeting. I think we gotta figure out, is this something that really makes sense, or otherwise,
I mean,
people are gonna say, why spend money on shellfish regulate shellfish as opposed to something else?
Shellfish regulation, I think that it's a good time to explain people, it's bigger than they think. Okay, I mean, I don't know, we have 70 or 80 licensed commercial clammers in town. Of those, I don't know what percentage, that's their sole means of income. That would put that as, outside of Triton and Governor Dama, possibly the largest employer in town. I mean, it's important that, and it's the fish commissioner's, or fish warden's job to protect it and.
Constable, we gotta get them.
Constable, okay, is to protect it and make sure that the resource doesn't get depleted and whatever. It's time that people
I
realize.
mean, I understand the role, right? It's a resource
Yeah.
issue, it's also a public health issue.
Right.
The closing of the
That's right.
we're trying to protect the public
Yeah.
from, bad stuff getting into the clams.
I think what it's gonna amount to, Charlie, for you too, not only for us, is as we look at this and think about how we're gonna do this, you're doing the job anyway, and you're doing the job pretty well. I don't seem to have any complaints. And it's maybe getting compensated for the hours that you put in, but one of the questions you will probably get, and it's something you're gonna have to probably be able to think about, is it becomes a larger job with the 20 hours and the health plan. There might be some, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, there might be some oversight into the fact that you're doing those 20 hours.
There is.
And
The chief can answer that question for you right
as
now.
long as that's in place, and that doesn't conflict with you doing the clamming, then I don't know what what the issue will be.
Mike can tell you how he accounts for that.
Charlie was assigned under the police department, under the umbrella of public safety. When he goes out on patrol, he radios into the police station that he's out on patrol and what sector he's gonna be in. And then when he clears, he radios in. So we have an accurate record of when he's out there and when he's not. And when he's not out there under our umbrella, I'm sure he's out there under the commercial umbrella, on the zone. So, but we do keep an accurate accounting of this time.
So, I mean, that's that loose end.
Okay.
I've been hearing different numbers, and that's why I'm sort of a little confused here. So, how many hours can you document that he's actually out there patrolling the flats?
It's more than 5 hours that he's putting in for a week, I can tell you that, but I haven't researched the numbers. We are budgeted, and he's been told, we're budgeted for a maximum of 12 hours a week. That's all our budget allows. I'm sure that there's a lot more than 12 hours a week of work out there. It's a big job. It's a lot of clam flats, a lot of commercial clammers out there, and it's a big job. So could it support 20 hours plus? I believe so. what we're budgeted for is what we're budgeted for.
Okay.
So it's up to.
That's what I'm trying to understand,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And
Yep.
that, I don't have all the answers for you tonight. I'd be more than glad to research everything and come to you with specifics at another meeting. But if you're asking me specifics as to specifically how
Yeah.
much time he's putting in, I can't answer that without looking up the records.
Okay.
So, motion should be with approval of town meeting?
No, no, what'll happen is we'll research it and put it on the fall town meeting.
Right, I wasn't prepared to
And-
speak about this
And,
tonight.
and that's,
Okay.
and that
Availability of
comes,
funds too.
what? And, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing is, as far as a motion now tonight, there isn't any, because it's just, we'll make the decision to put it on the warrant.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Boot Drive.
Whoa.
One-day liquor license for Mercury Brewing for Harvest Fest at Spencer Pierce Little Farm on Saturday, September 14th from 12 to 6. Everything's in order, Kathy? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second?
Any, any questions, discussion? Everything's all set? All right, all in favor?
All right.
New business license, Dietz and Lynch Capital at 28 Green Street. There's a letter here, the company that is moving from Newburyport to 28 Green Street. I can't find it. Is it way back? Yeah, all right. Anyway, there's a thing about the company, the letters after that, looking for. It's a company that does, enclosed, please find our business license application for town of Newbury. We're moving from our office from 37.5 Forester Street, Newburyport, to 28 Green Street. And is Neil Dietz, Managing Director, Chief Investment Officer of Dietz and Lynch Capital. So there's a business moving into the corner of Green and Hanover Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, any other questions, or, this is a routine, business license, right, Kathy? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Welcome any and all business.
Yeah. We have a request for road closure for events on Byfield Days, September 6th, 7th, and 8th. Those will be, he's gone, coordinated with the chief, and Linda Allen's gonna take care of that. And what this is the Byfield Days that were rained out this spring have been rescheduled for September.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Establish and post an emergency parking area for ambulances and other emergency vehicles at Manta Fields. What happens is, when there's a lot of kids playing, all the people drive up to the fields to watch what's going on. And last year, there was an instance, I think there's been another one, but I was there, and they called an ambulance for a kid that had a seizure or something. And they had to run all the way across the field with a stretcher and then haul the guy all the way back. And so I was over there talking to some of the coaches the other night, and my proposal is we have a no parking ambulance emergency vehicle access right where you come into the field, and probably one down the other end, and we can work out where it is with, you know, the chief and whatever. And that way, it is, otherwise, these guys have it tough enough instead of running 150 yards with a stretcher out there, you know, so, anyway, that was my proposal, and the motion would be to establish these two areas.
I'll make a motion that we establish these two areas, or even if we need an additional one also, as long as, we run it through the chief and deputy with their approval.
And the rec committee.
Okay, and the rec committee. But I think that's a landing zone too, is it still? Yeah. See, yeah, Medflight lands there, that's, so I mean, there's some things we're gonna,
Yeah, and that, you know, and again, there's only a couple spots that are conducive to this, because there's some railroad ties in the way over there. But, so anyway, but do we need to do anything for the emergency landing? No, okay, so that's good. So this will cover that, so, all right, motion has been made
And seconded.
and seconded. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. We have 7 one-day liquor licenses for the Byfield Community Arts Center, Cat in the Cradle Coffee House. And it's September 7th, September 21st, October 5th, October 26th, November 2nd, November 23rd, and December 7th. And they're all from 7:30 to 11 p.m.
Motion to approve.
And all that paperwork is good, Kathy? Okay. Motion been made?
Yeah, second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we have an acknowledgement here, this is just for the public to know, that we got a receipt of the Comcast PEG access support check in the amount of $27,218.87. And that's quarterly, Tracy, that we get that?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's a quarterly check. And David, you have plans for it?
We'll find a way.
Okay.
Actually, I must say the media committee's been pretty frugal so
Yeah.
far. I hope to keep them that way.
Bill
You know,
signed into law.
This
What
thing, you know,
is-
we want to keep expanding services as, you know, time and experience permits, and so there'll be other equipment needs and so forth, but I think we're off to a good start, and we just have to
Very good.
start bringing more boards online and things like that, so.
We have a
Oh,
letter
okay.
here from Senator Tarr, and our,
Legislation
from
came.
July 30th, legislation on State Bill 973, S 973, was the bill that it took a couple of years to go through on home rule petition process. And this one here is for the,
To be able to assess
for Newburyport to be able to put lien on properties in Newbury that haven't paid their water bills. Okay?
Yep.
So,
That's how I read it.
Authorizing the city of Newburyport.
yeah, okay. And we have a letter here from the Friends of Newbury. Dear Selectmen, it's with great pleasure that I write to introduce you to the Friends of Newbury Incorporated, a 501c3 organization started this year by several Newbury residents. Our mission is to make the Friends of Newbury a town-wide, nonpartisan movement to foster community spirit and collaboration by engaging residents of Byfield, Old Town, and Plum Island in activities and dialogue that foster town improvements and quality of life. The activities of the Friends of Newbury may include supporting special town projects, organizing special events, informing the public of local resources and events, and performing other services deemed helpful to the residents of the town of Newbury. Through our Friends constituency, we hope to connect town residents to each other and the town itself. To become a friend, an individual will sign up for our email distribution lists through our webpage at www.friendsofnewbury.org or like us on Facebook. I invite you to become a friend of the Friends of Newbury. I'm available to attend a Board of Selectmen's meeting if you'd like to learn more about Friends of Newbury. Best wishes, Ellen Walwark, Chair, Friends of Newbury. All right, I think maybe we should invite her in to introduce herself and to make it sound like a clam.
Yep.
Tell her how hard her job's gonna be.
What? Yeah. So, all right, so Kathy, could you invite her to a selectmen's meeting? Or if you write up the letter, I'll sign it when I get in here. Okay. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
You got some more
All right.
to sign?
Do
All right.
a bunch of them.
Now,
Pass them over. Executive session.
Can we adjourn for 10 minutes?
yep.
Yeah, you
yep.
read, I'll sign.
All right. I move, Mr. Chairman, I move we enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of this body. It's a roll call vote.
Okay,
Let me start.
we'll get a second.
Second.
Okay, second, roll call, Bulgaris,
Aye, yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Story, yes, Walker,
Yes.
Mountain.
Yes.
Okay. And this meeting will not reconvene at the conclusion of the executive session.
And are you just going in with town council?
Yes,
No one else?
I don't know. What are you here for?
I'm Michelle O'Brien, representing Stone, and I was just expecting you were gonna come back to report on what happened in executive session, but I can connect with Attorney Mead or
Okay.
Attorney Sherman. That's fine.
All right. She's not going, no. And we need 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes? You only get 5 minutes, no 10.
Okay, wait till we're off here too.
What?
We need your off
Yeah.
here.
Caleb,